Welcome everybody. We have not always do we always have an honor of having a guest speaker. Many times, especially a very chashuv guest speaker, the son of the Rav, and my dear uncle, and therefore, especially, I took the opportunity as we're now and during the 3 weeks and coming up to Tisha B'av, to give us a deeper understanding of the depths of Tisha B'av in the 3 weeks. Therefore, we'll take this honor to have welcome Rav Mendel Lieberman from Ashkelon to come and give us the between the Straits, a deeper of the understanding between the 3 weeks in Tisha B'av. Bein HaMetzora.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Rabbi Kalbach, Beshus, Daina Rav Shmal, Yedidim, friends. They tell the story about there was this little shtetl that one time, you know how they used to advertise, they didn't have a permanent rabbi in the shtetl, and there was this traveling rabbi that would hang up signs, Sadik Bola'ir, everybody should come to hear his drasha, everybody should come to shul. In any case, he goes ahead and hung up signs, Sadik Bola'ir, everybody should come at 8:30 to hear the drasha and this. In any case, he comes to shul, there's one person. No, he waits. One person. Doesn't know, should he give his drasha? Shouldn't he give the drasha? Should he give the drasha? Shouldn't he give the drasha? So he decides he's going to ask the person, do you want to hear the drasha? Do you think I should hear the drasha? So the guy says, listen, I'm just a plain farmer. I don't know about Rabbonis and this. But I know when it comes time to give food, and there comes one cow, I also give him food. So the Rav understood, so he gets up and he gives a drasha, an hour and a half, 2 hours, he gives a fire dike drasha, he gives the whole thing. After the drasha, the farmer tells him, he says, you know, for the Rav, when it comes one cow, I don't give him all the food. I give him just a little bit. So I don't know, okay, so today we're going to have to deal with the amount of food that we're going to have tonight. We'll see. But Baruch Hashem, because like as we heard from Rabbi Kalbach, tonight we're going to talk about Bein HaMeitzorim, between the Straits. And there's a lot to talk about between the Straits, a lot to talk about Bein HaMeitzorim. They tell the story about this rabbi in America and Judea, that every Shabbos he would go and he would give a drasha, and we give a drasha for 7 minutes. Every Shabbos, 7 minutes, everybody knew they can set the clock by the time that the rabbi gave his drasha. 7 minutes, never a minute more, never a minute less. In any case, one time the Rav comes to shul, and he speaks for 7 minutes, 8 minutes, 15 minutes, 18 minutes, 20 minutes. He spoke for 20 minutes. People were shocked. For 20 years, he didn't go for a minute more than 7 minutes. For 20 years, 7 minutes exactly. All of a sudden, what happened? The Shabbos, he spoke for 20 minutes. So, after davening, somebody came over to the rabbi and he says, what happened? This Shabbos, you spoke for 20 minutes. So he says, listen, I'll tell you the truth. Every morning when I come to shul, I leave my house, and the road and the time it takes me to come from my house to shul is 7 minutes. The moment I leave my house, I start, working over the drasha, preparing the drasha. I get to shul, 7 minutes that you have. Today, there's construction over there, and I had to make a detour. So it took me 20 minutes to come to shul. So that's why the drasha was for 20 minutes. You should know I come from Israel. It took me like 4 or 5 hours to get here. And really, about Bein HaMeitzorim, there's plenty to talk about 4 or 5 hours. And not only it's to talk about Bein HaMeitzorim 4 or 5 hours, but we have to live Bein HaMeitzorim. We have to internalize, we have to understand what the secret of these days are, the secret of these times are. In my shul, before Tisha B'av, Yom Kippur, this year, I spoke to them about before Nila. In Chassidus, what does Nila mean? What's Nila? Nilas Hashorim. What does Nilas Hashorim mean? The last few moments of Yom Kippur, the Eibishter locks the gates, but he locks us together with him. And we have an opportunity, one last hour, that we could talk to the Eibishter, we could tell him what we have on our heart, we can have this personal discussion with the Eibishter. And we have to know what we want to discuss. So really, this idea was mentioned in the New York Times, because there's a quote from a Rabbi Berger, that gave this speech 30 years ago. What happened 30 years ago was that the Challenger, are you familiar with the Challenger? That was this rocket that they set up. After it flew up for a couple of minutes, the rocket exploded. And a few weeks before Rosh Hashanah, they found out that the people in the Challenger, the astronauts, then there was this lady teacher in the Challenger, that she was in this rocket, in the missile that they sent up. They didn't die at the time of the explosion. They died only when the capsule hit the water, when the capsule landed. That's when they died. In other words, they had 5 minutes. 5 minutes they knew that they had to live. What does a person think when he has 5 minutes? What does a person do? What goes through a person's mind when he has only a few moments of his life? What does he think? How does he utilize those few moments of those last few moments of his life? Well, that's how we have to feel during the Nila prayer. That's how we have to feel during Nila, when the gates lock, when the gates close, and we have those few minutes with the Eibishter. What do we have to think about? What do we have to do? The same is true about these days of Bein HaMeitzorim. And even more than that, very interestingly, that Rabbi Berger, 3/4 of a year after he gave his drasha, he was flying from Denver to Chicago, and the engines failed, and they knew that they were going to make a crash landing. What happened was, he was there together with his son, and he was there together with his daughter, and he and his wife didn't survive the crash. But they asked his children, what did your father do those last few moments when he realized that they may be the last moments of your life? The same is true with us. We have to understand and try to internalize and understand how we can value and how we have to internalize and how we can use every important moment of our life. There's a story told about the Bluger Rebbe. The Bluger Rebbe, Yisrael Shapira, he was in the concentration camp. When he was in the concentration camp, he was a very prominent person, and he had people outside of the camp trying to save him. And while he was over there in the middle of the concentration camp, we were able to get for him a passport, a South African passport. On the passport, he had his name, he had his wife's name, and he had his little boy's name, he had his son's name. But by the time he got the passport, it was already too late for his wife, already too late for his son. Any case, he told the Jewish people, he told the people that were in the camp, I have this passport. And it's not a passport only to travel from one state to another, from one country to another country. It was a passport to save a person's life. It was a passport in order to guarantee that you'll be able to live through this Holocaust, able to live through this hell that they found themselves in. And he said they could save a lady and could save a child. The moment that they heard that he could save a child became such a rumpus. Everybody started yelling, take my son, take my son, take my son. He said it was too difficult. He couldn't decide which child he wants to save. He couldn't say which child he wants to save. He says, this is too much for me. I could save one child. You have to decide amongst yourself which child I want to save. And he went into his room. Any case, a while later, the father comes in together with a little boy and says, this boy was chosen that he should be the child you should save. And the father had just 2 minutes to say goodbye to his child. What do you say to your child when you know you have only 1 or 2 minutes, and this is perhaps the last time he's going to see his child. And the Beluga Rebbe says that this father, I don't remember his name now, took a look at him. He says, from now, this gentleman is your father. And he gave his son a kiss, and he walked out of the room. By the door, he turned around one more time, and that was it. The Beluga Rebbe didn't have any children. Later, when he came to America, got married, went to Canada, got married. And this boy is the one who continued the legacy of the Beluga Hasidim that there are today in America, in Canada. Yeah, sometimes we have just a few moments, and we can make a change, we can make a statement, we can understand what we have to do. The same is true with the days of Bein HaMeitzorim, because they're very special, very unique, and very powerful days. I know, as a rule, we think that they're very, very sad days. But we know what Chazal say, that when Mashiach will come, Kol HaMoyedim Asidim Lisbata, all holidays will cease to exist, except for Purim, maybe Hanukkah. Why is that? Because a holiday is a time when there is light. A holiday is a time when there is revelation. A holiday is a time when there is divine energy comes into this world. When this divine energy comes in this world, well, we celebrate. When Mashiach will come, La'asid Lavai, there will be a tremendous amount of light in this world. There will be a tremendous amount of divine revelation in this world. And then the light of the regular holidays like Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot will not be noticeable. When I light a match and it's dark over here, in the darkness, the little light that the match gives makes light. But if I light a match during the day, then in order for me to make additional light, a match is not enough. I have to light a projector. When Mashiach will come, all of the regular holidays that we know today, that we celebrate today, Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot, Rosh Hashanah, they will cease to be holidays. We won't feel the very unique revelation that there is during the time of that holiday, except for Purim and except for Hanukkah. But these days between Shivasa B'Tammuz and Tisha B'av, Chazal tell us, Tanakh tells us, Hayomim E'elu Yafchu Liyot Yamim Shel Sosen V'Simcha, that these days will be transformed. That instead of days of pain and instead of days of mourning, they will be transformed into days of holidays and enjoyment. What does that mean? How is it that this is going to be these days of Bein HaMeitzorim, even L'Asid Love, even when Mashiach comes, even at the time of the tremendous amount of revelation that there is in the world, that all of a sudden these days, instead of days of mourning, are going to be transformed into days of joyousness and days of very much happiness? Well, the answer is explained at great length in many Svarim is because even though today we see the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash and we see that terrible exile that we find ourselves in till today as a horrendous punishment, but what do you tell your child when you give him his slab? What do you tell your child when you want him to do his homework? What do you tell your child when you try to discipline him? And at the time that you discipline him and tell him that he has to do his homework, the child thinks, oh, there's no worse parent than that. There's no parent that is more horrendous and more and worse than that. But when the child grows up and becomes a little bit more mature, he realizes that this strength and this sternness and this type of education that the parents try to imbue upon the child isn't something that Chas v'Sholom came from hatred, isn't something that came from anger on the child. On the contrary, it's something that stems from love. And on the contrary, it stems from even a deeper love, a stronger love. Isn't there a parent what would a parent prefer? Would he prefer to give his child candy and prizes and to hug him and to kiss him? Or would he like to punish this child and be stern with him and to give him all sorts of different punishments? It's much more difficult to give a child a punishment. It's much more difficult to be stern and strict with a child. But it stems from love. It stems from a deeper level of love than when the parent gives the kindness. And this is, for example, familiar with the term sagi nor. Are we familiar with the term sagi nor? Sagi nor, what does that mean? When somebody, God forbid, is blind, we call him that he's called sagi nor. What does the word sagi nor mean? Sagi nor means a lot of light. Well, when somebody is blind, why do you make fun of him and say that there's a lot of light? But we know that if, for example, you want to see something very clearly, so what do? You shine a flashlight into your eyes? No, when you shine a flashlight into your eyes, you become blinded. You can't see anything. When there's too much light, we aren't the receptacles to receive that light. Not only does the light not enable us to be able to see something better, but it blinds us completely. The revelations that are during these days of Bein HaMetzorim, because they stem from such an internal place in the relationship that there is between the Eibishter and his children, is an expression of love, is something which is too much for us to be able to receive, for us to be able to absorb, for us to be able to really appreciate. And that's the reason why these days are called Bein HaMetzorim. You know what Bein HaMetzorim means? Bein HaMetzorim means between the straits. What does it mean between the straits? I don't know if anybody has a garden over here, and he wants to water his garden. And the water comes out of the pipe, and it just falls straight down. So what do? You make a pinch. You pinch the pipe. And you make it straight. And then what happens? Wow, the water is able to go much further. I don't know if anybody did over here kayaking work, right? When you go kayaking, when you go on a, how do you say kayaking? What? You go with a kayak, yeah, you go and on water rafting. Water rafting. And you go between the straits. What happens? Well, the water becomes much more turbulent. All the pressure and all the energy that there is found within the water, all of a sudden builds up and is able to take you to someplace else completely on a much higher level, much quicker, and obviously much more dangerous than if you would just go in a plain open place. That's the secret of Bein HaMetzorim. Bein HaMetzorim is a time where we're able to get tremendous energy, when we're able to reach a completely different level, a completely different place. We know immediately following the days of Bein HaMetzorim is Tu B'av, Lo Yom Tovim LiYisrael, K'mo Yom Kippur, Tu B'av. There weren't any happy and joyous days amongst the Jewish people as there was Tu B'av. And following Tu B'av, we're able to go to the month of Elul, the month of repentance, and the month of Tshuva, because all of this love, all of this pent-up love and relationship that there is between the Eibishter and the Jewish people that stems from this very, very deep place is revealed necessarily during these days of, it says, Mizmor LaAsaf, that Asaf, he was one of the singers in the Beis HaMikdash, he says, Mizmor, he'd like to tell a song, say a praise. Bo goyim benachlesecha, kimo es hechal kadshecha, samu Yerushalayim ne'im. And David HaMelech continues to tell about all of the difficult times that came as a result of the Churban. And the Medrash asks, Mizmor LaAsaf. Is this Mizmor LaAsaf? Is this a reason to be happy and to sing? Kina LaAsaf. It should be, he should cry and bemoan the terrible situation that there is, that the Eibishter did to the Jewish people. But the Medrash tells us no. That Medrash tells us that HaKadosh Baruch Hu said that he should have poured Shafach HaMasai, instead of pouring his wrath on the Jewish people, he poured out all of his wrath on the stones, on the eitzim va'avonim, the sticks and stones that there were in the Beis Hamikdash. But there's a little bit of a deeper idea than just destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. Because really, the Jewish people, the Beis Hamikdash, was the hindrance and didn't let the Jewish people reach this deeper and higher level. There's a famous saying that they say that the biggest enemy to excellence, what's the worst enemy to excellence? Is good. If you have good, you don't continue to excellence. If you're on one level, you can't reach a higher level. The story is told, the mashal is told, that take, for example, somebody one time drew a painting. And he was there together with his assistant, and he was in the fields, and he was on a mountaintop, and he made a beautiful painting of the entire scene that there was over there. And in case after he finished painting his painting, he wanted to see if his painting was good, so he took a step back. He took a step back and became very engrossed in all the details of the painting that he drew. And he wanted to get a different perspective, so he took another step back. And then he took another step back. And little did he realize that if he'll take one more step back, then what? He'll fall down a terrible cliff. And he had an assistant over there. And his assistant was yelling at him, stop walking back, stop looking at the painting, stop. But he was so engrossed in analyzing and in studying the painting, the picture that he made, that he didn't hear what he was yelling. He didn't hear what he was warning to him. So what did he do? The assistant took a stone and he threw it at the painting. He destroyed the painting. The moment he destroyed the painting, the paper started to yell, what did you do? You destroyed the painting? Everything that I worked here the last 2 months, you just destroyed. He says, you're right, I destroyed the painting, but what did I do? Oh, I saved your life. Because if it wouldn't have been for that I destroyed the painting, you would have, God forbidden, fallen down the cliff. And so it was in the Beis Hamikdash. The first Beis Hamikdash, the second Beis Hamikdash. We can elaborate that at the time of the Beis Hamikdash, if somebody would have done an Aveira, if somebody would have done something wrong, what did he have to do in order for him to repent? He brought a carbon. But to what extent did he have to internalize it? To what extent did this have to change him? To what extent did he really have to become moved? Was he really moved? If we had the Beis Hamikdash, and we had this technical system, how to do tshuva, and we had this technical system, how to make amends for all of our deeds, and we had this technical system, how that we should feel close to Hashem, without necessarily having to make this personal, internal change within us, it stemmed us. It blocked our growth. When somebody has a home, and he wants to do some remodeling, he wants to make the home nicer and bigger, what does he have to do before he can do remodeling? The first thing that he has to do is what? Is destruction. He has to break that exists. Only when he breaks that what exists can he bring it to another level. And let me tell you the secret. The more you break, the more you destroy, the more you demolish, you're able to bring the home to a higher level. You're able to bring a higher level of development and enhancement. And so it was true with the Beis Hamikdash. The first Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. Okay, so it was only remodeled to a certain level. The second Beis Hamikdash, he has to take us someplace else completely. Where does until the third Beis Hamikdash? Well, we know that Chazal tell us that the three Batei Mikdash, the three Beis Hamikdash, are compared. First Beis Hamikdash is from Avram Avinu. The second Beis Hamikdash is from Yitzchak Avinu. The third Beis Hamikdash is from Yaakov Avinu. It's not only that we have three Avos, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, that the three Batei Mikdash, the first, the second, and third, are compared and are analogous one to the other. But there is an intrinsic connection between the first Beis Hamikdash and the second Beis Hamikdash. We'll try to understand. The first base of Mikdash, Avram Avinu. What was Avram Avinu? Who was Avram Avinu? Avram Avinu was Isha Chesed, the person who just gave kindness, unlimited kindness. He gave kindness even to who? And was concerned even about who? Even about Tzedayim Va'ameira. He loved his son Yishmael. He just loved him so intensely. He loved him so overwhelmingly. He gave everybody food, whether they were Arabs, whether Jews. He didn't really care. He was what? Isha Chesed. Just giving, just revelation, just sharing and flowing with giving. Yitzchak, what do we know about Yitzchak? Yitzchak wasn't chesed, it was pachad Yitzchak, was gvura. Gvura, if we take a look in the Torah, the least amount of discussion of our forefathers is about Yitzchak. And there's one point, one major point that the Torah tells us about Yitzchak. What's the main point that the Torah tells about Yitzchak? What did he do? He dug wells. He dug wells, and he dug again wells, and more wells. And that's what the Torah tells us at great length about building of Yitzchak. Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov is Isha Emes. He is Mitase Shleima. All of his children are holy. That's Yaakov Emes. Emes is something which is permanent. Till today, we're called Bnei Yisrael, the children of Yaakov, Eretz Yisrael, the children of Yaakov. Till today, Yaakov Avinu is the one that accompanies us. And the question is, what does he have to do with the Beis Hamikdash? But let's try to understand a little bit the difference between the first Beis Hamikdash, the second Beis Hamikdash, and what we are aspiring for the third Beis Hamikdash. Well, there's a Mishnah. And the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos tells us like this. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, there was Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, Kimel Mehil Mishamai, and he had five students. Rabbi Elazar ben Hyrcanus, Rabbi Shua ben Chananya, Rabbi Sekon, Rabbi Shimon Esanel, and also Rabbi Elazar ben Aroch. And Hu Ayamayna Shvacham, he would tell us the praises, the qualities that were found in each one of these students. And what does he say? Rabbi Elazar ben Hyrcanus is a bor su she'ena ma'abed tipa. It is a pit that is covered with waterproof, that it does not lose even a drop of water. Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya Sheladatoy, Rabbi Yossi HaKohen Chosed, Rabbi Shimon Esanel Yerechet, and Rabbi Elazar ben Aroch, Kamayan Hamizgaber, like an overfilling well, like a fountain that is constantly grows within him. If all the Jewish people would be on one side, and Elazar ben Hyrcanus bekaf shniya, and Elazar ben Hyrcanus would be on the other side, is Rabbi Elazar ben Hyrcanus machriyat kulam. He overweighs them all. Abishol says in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Im koyu kol Yisrael bekaf maznayim, ve'elazar ben Hyrcanus af imohem, ve'elazar ben Aroch bekaf shniya, machriyes kulam. So we have here two statements in the name of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Once he says Rabbi Elazar ben Hyrcanus overweighs everybody, and the other hand he says Rabbi Elazar ben Aroch overweighs everybody. Well, who overweighs who? Who is the greater of these two students? On one hand, he said this student is compared to all of his students. The other hand, he says this other student is compared to all of the other students. Which student overweighs everybody? But it depends from your perspective. Because what happens over here? There is this Rebbe. The Rebbe is Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. And he has two students. One student is Rabbi Elazar ben Hyrcanus. He is a bor su she'ena ma'abed tipa. Well, let's make it like this. There's a Rebbe, and he has two students. One student, he has a phenomenal memory. Every single thing that the teacher taught him, he is able to repeat and able to give over. The other student doesn't have such a good memory, doesn't remember and memorize every single one of the teachings of his teacher, but he internalized the system that his teacher taught him. He internalized the methodology that his teacher uses. And he also teaches, but he doesn't teach his teacher's teachings. He teaches his own teachings. Now, if we take a look at the teachings, which one of these teachings is on a higher level? Well, the one who repeats the teachings of his teacher is on a much higher level, because this is the teacher and this is the student. The revelations of the teacher on a much higher level than the revelations of the student. And so therefore the student that gives over everything that he heard from his teacher, the student that reveals all of the teachings that he heard from the teacher, they're on a much higher level. But which one of these students made an internal change? Which one of these students, he himself reached a higher level? Which one of the students of the one that repeats everything that his teacher taught him, or the one that internalized the teaching and the methodology of the teacher, and now he gives his own teachings? Which one made the biggest change within him? That's the second student. That's the Mayan HaMizgaber. And that's the difference between the first Beis HaMikdash and the second Beis HaMikdash. The first Beis HaMikdash, and that's what the Mishnah tells us. The Mishnah tells us, yes, we have Rabbi Elazar ben Hyrcanus. He's Bor Su She'ena Mekabel Tipa. All of the teachings of his teacher, he memorizes them. In the moment that he memorizes them, he passes over and gives over all of the teachings of his teacher. Rabbi Elazar ben Arach, no, he doesn't give over his teachings, teachers. It's Kamayin HaMizgaber. It's like a fountain that goes up and comes from within him. But it's on a much higher level. The ultimate student is what? The ultimate student is what? Is one that's able to make the internal change. And his teachings should also attain the level of the teacher. And that's the difference between the three Beis HaMikdash. The first Beis HaMikdash is like Avram Avinu. Avram Avinu is just chesed, just revelation. In the first Beis HaMikdash, there was divine Gilui Shechina constantly, miracles the whole time. There was the Urim V'Tumim, there was the Oren, there was the Kruvim, there was everything in the Beis HaMikdash, tremendous amount of divine revelation. But what? But it didn't make the change in the world so much. I know, for example, I'm in education. And so we take children, I don't know, from a first grade, second grade, and we'll bring a big professor for them to give a speech to the children. And they're going to hear him a tremendous amount of knowledge. But is it going to change them at all? It's not going to change them. The light is just too great. The light is just so overwhelming. They aren't able to make any personal change from within. The light is not adapted to the receptacle. That was the first Beis HaMikdash. Okay, but it was an infinite revelation. It's a revelation of Avram Avinu, a revelation of tremendous amount of giving. The second Beis HaMikdash didn't have all of the revelation that there was during the first Beis HaMikdash. But it made a change in the world. It made a change in this physical world. The Gemara tells us on the Pasuk Godli Yabayza Achri Mi'arishon that the second Beis HaMikdash will be greater than the first Beis HaMikdash. So it says 5 things were missing in the second Beis HaMikdash that weren't in the first Beis HaMikdash. There wasn't the Shechina, there wasn't the Aron, there wasn't Aron V'Tumim, there weren't all of these things that were in the first Beis HaMikdash. So what does the Gemara tell us? The Gemara tells us the second Beis HaMikdash was greater than the first Beis HaMikdash in what? In Binyan Vishonim. That it was a bigger building, it was a higher building, another 10 amas was much higher, and it also lasted another 10 years more. The first Beis HaMikdash for 410 years, the second Beis HaMikdash for 120. I ask you, my friends, Is this how we measure the quality of the Beis HaMikdash, to say that it's bigger? They tell the story about the Chassam Sofer. Chassam Sofer was the son-in-law of Rabbi Akiva Eger. And they were both Torah giants. They were both very, very great, unique people. One time they were discussing in the shul, who's bigger, the Chassam Sofer or the Rabbi Akiva Eger? So some kids came into shul and they heard them discussing who's bigger. Some said Rabbi Akiva started laughing. What a question. Rabbi Akiva Eger was a very short person, like 4 feet something. The Chassam Sofer was almost 6 foot. So he says, they started laughing. What do you mean who's bigger? What do you mean bigger? Obviously bigger doesn't mean physically bigger. Bigger means what? Bigger in spiritual stature and Torah learning, etc. When we talk about the Beis HaMikdash, and we want to say that the second Beis HaMikdash is bigger than the first Beis HaMikdash, we don't mean that it's bigger in more years. We don't mean it's bigger in physical height. What does it mean the second Beis HaMikdash is bigger than the first Beis HaMikdash? Oh, but that's what it means. The first Beis HaMikdash didn't make the change in the world, in this physical world, like the second Beis HaMikdash. We know the halacha, that the kedusha, the holiness that there was during the time of the first Beis HaMikdash, that's not the reason why we don't go on Harabais today. That's not the reason why the kedusha isn't there. But kutcha shniya, but the second holiness, it's kitcha l'shaita, and also l'asud lavi. The holiness that the second Beis HaMikdash brought into the world is something that remained also for today, for then, and also for later. Because it changed the entire world. It was a mayan amisgaber. It's something that came and it changed it from intrinsically from below. But even so, that was a limitation. Even so, that didn't bring us to the highest level. The highest level is what? Not like the second student, that he has it coming within him. But the highest level is what? That we should make a change and be able to reach the level of godliness. Well, what does it mean for us today? Well, there's we know that the Beis HaMikdash isn't only the physical Beis HaMikdash that was built. In the way we know that it says that Kol Dor Beis HaMikdash Lo Nivne B'Yamav is as if the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. And this is based really, and we can really understand what does it mean that just because the Beis HaMikdash isn't built, I mean, we're not the ones in charge of building it. But we know what the Torah tells us. The Torah says, "Vasuli Mikdash v'shechanti b'soicham," and the Shalach HaKodesh says, "Vasuli Mikdash v'shechanti b'soicham." B'soichai leinamar. It doesn't say, "Make me a mikdash that I should reside within it," but it says, "Vasuli Mikdash v'shechanti b'soicham," that I should reside within them, because each one of us has to be like a Beis HaMikdash. Each one of us, we have to internalize and build the next Beis HaMikdash, especially during this time of the 3 weeks where we have this unique and divine revelation and ability. And how do we do it? Well, there's a story told about the and it's hard to build a Beis HaMikdash. And to realize that it's hard, it's not easy to build a Beis HaMikdash. If we take a look in the Torah, we see in the beginning of Parshas Bereshis, the Torah tells us on how Hashem created the world. You know how many psukim the Torah uses to teach us on how Hashem created the world? Like 33 psukim. At the end of Parshas Shmos, the Torah tells us on how the Jewish people built the Beis HaMikdash. You know how many psukim the Torah tells us on how the Jewish people built the Beis HaMikdash? Over 350 psukim. More than 10 times as much. And why is it? Wouldn't you think, what's more difficult, to build Beis HaMikdash or to build this entire world? Well, the answer is, for Hashem to create the world, for Hashem to create the physical world is not such a big deal. But for us, to create a home for Hashem, for us, for people, to create a physical home for Hashem is something which is very, very difficult. To reach the level of this final student, to reach the level that we're able to bring godliness into the world on such a level is not something that comes easily. And what does that mean to us today? Well, there's a story told about the Baal Shem. One time, one of his students comes to the Baal Shem and he says, he's davening and learning. He wants to merit Gilui Eliyahu. He wants to merit the revelation of Eliyahu Hanavi. So Baal Shem Tov thinks for a moment. He says, you know what? Go to this shtetl. I don't know, it's a 3-day drive by wagon. And at the end of the town over there, there's this little hut. And in this hut lives a poor widow with a whole bunch of children. I think if you go over there and you spend by your Rosh Hashanah, you'll merit to see Eliyahu Hanavi. He says, really? He says, yeah. But the Baal Shem Tov says, you know what? She's a very poor lady, very poor family. She has a lot of children. Make sure that if you go there for Rosh Hashanah, you should take with you a lot of food so that everybody should have no problem. If I'm going to go see Eliyahu Hanavi, it's for sure worth it. So he goes and packs up a whole wagon full of food and fish and meat and drinks and wine and everything. And he travels to the shtetl. He comes to the shtetl, knocks at the door, and says, he'd like to come and spend Yontif over here together with the people, together with the family. He says, fine, you can stay with us. We have plenty of room for you to sleep, but we have no food. He says, food, no problem. Plenty of food. And he unpacks the whole wagon and all the children and everybody. So excited. There's so much to eat. There's so much to do. There's so much to... Baruch Hashem will have such a happy yontif. Any case, for him, for 2 days of Rosh Hashanah, he didn't sleep. He's waiting to see Eliyahu Hanavi. He goes to shul, maybe by Shacharis he'll see, maybe when he makes Kiddush, maybe when they blow shofar he'll see Eliyahu Hanavi. Comes home, maybe when he makes Kiddush at home. In the evening goes, maybe for Tfilas Mincha. Eliyahu Hanavi was then about Tfilas Mincha. Maybe he'll also see Eliyahu Hanavi. First day, second day, all excited, all nervous, all tense. No Eliyahu Hanavi. Goes all the way back to Mezhebush, goes all the way back to the Baal Shem Tov. He says, he was there for 2 days, away from his family, away from being by the Baal Shem Tov, all in order for him to see Eliyahu Hanavi, and he didn't merit to see Eliyahu Hanavi. So Baal Shem Tov thinks for a minute. He says, you didn't see Eliyahu Hanavi by Rosh Hashanah? I have a suggestion. You want to see Eliyahu Hanavi? Go for Yom Kippur. If you go for Yom Kippur, for sure you'll see Eliyahu Hanavi. So he already knows. He packs up the whole wagon full of food and everything, and he travels there for another 3 days. And he finally gets there, and he's about to knock at the door. He gets there Erev Yom Kippur, and he hears the little boy talking to his mother. He says, tomorrow is Yom Kippur. We didn't have what to eat in the house ready for 2 days. How in the world are we going to fast Yom Kippur? How in the world are we going to be able to fast? And he hears the mother answer, don't you remember how Erev Rosh Hashanah, we didn't know what we're going to have to eat. And all of a sudden, Hashem sent us Eliyahu Hanavi and gave us plenty of food. For sure, Hashem will send us Eliyahu Hanavi now as well. And he knocked on the door, and he brought in the food. What did he realize? He realized, we ourselves can become Eliyahu Hanavi. It's not the job for us to bring Eliyahu Hanavi somebody else. But that's what it's all about. That's what making a Beis Hamikdash means. That's what the third Beis Hamikdash is all about. That every single part in our life, every single action in this world, every single thing that we do is going to be godliness, is going to be a mitzvah, is going to be a divine revelation. This is what we're striving for. And this is what these days of Bein HaMetzorim give us the strength and give us the ability to be able to do and to bring about. And Mirz Hashem, each and every one of us will internalize and use the strength an energy that is revealed as a result of this very deep love that Hashem reveals during the days of Bein HaMetzorim, that we will only appreciate when Mashiach will come if we utilize these energies and this revelation that there is today. There's no question that very, very soon, and even this year, we could still see that the days of Bein HaMetzorim will be revealed to us of days of Sosim v'Simcha, days of happiness and joy, days that we will merit the coming of Mashiach speedily in our days. Amen.
Third.